Hello, Dan Halligan here with another video from Kayenta Games, but now we're going to be playing at last. And I'm going to be doing a standard length turn, 16 turns, and I'm going to film it by season. Season is 3 standard turns in a courtship event. There are 4 seasons during the game. First season is going to take longer to film because we're going to learn some things for the first time and discuss some strategy, different mechanics. The game is a 2-player game between family Asquith and family York. Asquith's family bonus is that the Dowager Countess of Asquith lives with the family. My 2 tried and true trusty inner circle friends turned out to be both ladies, which really creates an interesting dynamic here. I mean, I have 6 of these, or 5 of these 7 cards are ladies, which is significant. I'm going to have to get some ladies' maids from the servants for hire. That will have an impact. York's family bonus is they have an extra footman. Normally you start with 1 footman, they start with 2, and footmen are extremely valuable early on. Outdoor activities like estate activities and sporting activities tend to use footmen. So we look back at our turn track. There's 2 different types of courtships that you can play. One's an open courtship, the other is the closed. And the only difference between the 2 is when you find out about the love interest's passions. In an open courtship, which we're going to play, we start a season by finding out through gossip what their burning interest is, what their first passion is. In a closed courtship, there's a lot of mystery, a lot of guesswork that goes on. You find out at the end of those 3 turns. So there's a lot of jockeying for position, for supremacy in certain categories. But we're playing an open courtship, and I flip that, and we find out that the Fairchilds love a vast estate. An estate, in this category of estate, generally refers to the gardens and the manicured grounds, the curb appeal, if you will, in Victorian England. So they like a vast estate. Now that's interesting because as we look here, there are 2 estate renovations waiting to be purchased, improvements waiting to be purchased. That's going to make for an interesting beginning to the game. I look at my objective cards. I fortunately get a victory point for every estate tile that I get. So that's actually dovetails nicely with that passion. I also have a group, the prestige group, the smoking room and the drawing room. If I get both of those, I get 10 victory points. And I see the smoking room sitting there, so that's of high priority. But I don't have any money. Now I do have a Dowager Countess who I do want to use coming from my Gentry deck. And the reason I want to use her is because she's an advantage nobody else has. Now, you don't get to endlessly use the same cards. So once I use people, they go into a discard pile. And not until I pass can I reclaim guests that have attended recent activities. So I want to use that Dowager Countess early. I want to get that money early. And that's 400. And if I were to host a game of bowls, that's 700. I'm going to be short of that conservatory, which is the prize, because it has a value right there of 1 victory point on the front side. Back side gets up to 4. I'm going to actually bank a little money and sort of be in a position to jump on whatever my opponent does as far as picking one of those 2 tiles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, because this is a special tile that needs some discussion. The landed gentry back in the day, the ancestral lands typically had a village on them, and the landed gentry were the patrons of that village. If you take, and basically if the village prospered or not really mattered to the family. If you take the time to plan for a successful village fair, it pleases the locals, the villagers, and you get a permanent benefit that for every future village fair, you're getting 300 pounds of revenue from the fair, and your local reputation increases. That's wonderful because there's 2 village fairs in a standard length game. However, This game is about the elite, the aristocracy. It's not about villagers. So who gives a damn about the villagers? Well, you're supposed to, but if you take the time to give a damn, then when you flip this tile where there's 3 victory points, you get penalized for basically taking your eye off the ball. The ball is the elite. But I'm going to do it. I want that money. Whoops, wrong side. I want that money, and I'm going to go ahead and be able to use 2 family members that produce a lot of immediate favors. So what do I need to do? The butler needs to be there to support the family meeting to plan for the village fair. I have 2 family members, and now I calculate my favors. I have 400 pounds. I'm going to get that from the bank in the middle, put that here. I get 1 reputation from the Dowager Countess because she is well known and beloved in the county, and I'm done with my activity. The butler goes to expended service, having just performed that function. I now have that permanent benefit for future village fairs, and these 2 go into the discard pile. They now won't be available until I pass. I have 400 pounds, but look at this great discount I have. This is normally 300 pounds for a still room, but it's discounted by 200 pounds. So I want to retain a little bit of my money to be powerful. For only 100 pounds, I'm going to get a nice ability for my white guys to function as green guys, for my footmen to function as valets. I like that. I like that a lot. I pay 100 into the bank. I repopulate. And have a new service tile come in. Whoops, I knocked my people over. I'll leave those for now. So my turn is over. Now it is the York turn. York begins the game, as we know, with an extra footman. First thing I'm thinking as player York is that they flipped their brown tile. I'm not going to flip mine. I'm going to give up 600 pounds and 4 reputation over the course of those 2 village fairs, but I'm going to make it up by focusing on what the courtship's about. And I'm going to let him have that advantage and hope for a courtship that has a traditionalist, that has someone who the Fairchild's wanting essentials. I also have extra servant to start, so I'm not going to jump on getting servants right away. If I take a look here, my objective, I do want that breakfast room there. But I really want this conservatory, and that's 700. The reason I want that is it gives an immediate victory point. I don't even have to play it. That's the front side. The back side's got even more, but I don't even have to play that. And I can get to 700. Watch this. I've got 100 for being the second player. When you do an open courtship, players that go second, third, and fourth, if applicable, get additional money. I only get 100, but that 100 is going to be big for me. I'm going to go to a game of bowls, and I'm going to go with the Earl, and Esquire Zachary L. Esquire Zachary L. requires a valet in his visit. I require a footman to host the game of bowls out of doors. And now I have favors to total, and I've got 300 there, 200 is 500, that's 600, and that's 700. I'm going to go ahead and put that one in there, and I'm going to take the conservatory and put it in my manor house. It's put me in great stead for that courtship. I now cycle my servants just used to expended service. I flip this. I've now got victory points showing for the bowling green and Esquire L and the Earl go into my discard pile. And it is now turn number 2. Turn number 2 for Asquith. I had to populate after the purchase of that conservatory over there. I pulled from the bag, and we put in a north dining room into the open space. First thing that one does, you can always look here, rotate service in the order of play. So that butler goes to the quarters. Next turn he'll be available for service. So now I've seen what they've done. They've taken the lead on that conservatory. Now if I don't play this gazebo this turn or next, then they're going to just win the courtship by default. However, now that smoking room is 600. I've got 300 here. I do have the ability to generate a little money myself by going to the bowling green. But I want that flower room because I want to be in the game. I don't know if we're going to get maybe 2 estates in our courtship or 4 courtships. And I get a point for getting that flower room. So I want that flower room. I have 300, I need 200. So what I want to do, I think, is I don't have guests that are going to generate the money I need to buy that flower room to get the additional 200. So I'm going to have to go to the bowling green. Now, I think I've skipped over this, and I apologize. When you place a tile, listed right here is the activity, bowls, on the bowling green outside. Immediately below in black are the invites. So here's 2 gentry. Gentry refers to anybody in the gentry deck. And the service that's required, it's mandatory, would be a footman from my available service there. So now that I'm ready to host that event. But if I go to my gentry deck and I try to play a guest that also requires a footman, I'm short a footman. I can't provide her the proper service. So what I'm going to do is I want to get some new guests coming in. So I'm going to play the lady of the house, and then I'm going to play this inner circle guest, Miss Dansby, because she does not require service, and I'm a little low on servants. I don't want to be constantly pressed for servants with guests. So I've hosted a game of bowls with the lady of the house and her friend. I now have 300, which I take from the bank, and I put in my pound circle. I come down here. If you look here, I take it in the order of pounds, reputation, invites, and then service. I have reputation here. So my reputation rose. And then I have 2 invites here. She can either dismiss a guest. There's some bad actors in that casual guest pile. But I'm instead going to be able to view 2 and keep 1 guest. The idea being that the lady of the house knows people and can extend invites to the appropriate people. We don't have any bad actor here. I like John Ambrose's 2 reputations. So John Ambrose is going to go into my gentry deck and be available for future events. She will be discarded. And we're done. A footman comes down into expended service. That gets flipped, and I now have 2 victory points there. The lady and her friend go into the discard pile. Now I have 600 pounds that I can spend, and I very much want that flower room. I'm going to take 5 of the 6, put them in the bank in the middle, restore that to my pound circle. I'm going to purchase the flower room. Flower room comes in my manor house organizer. These 3 slide down, and I reach into the bag, and I pull out a monument. So monument is different than an improvement tile. We discussed this in a previous video. But this is a capital improvement that confers a large amount of victory points. It doesn't get played for an activity, but it goes in the manor house. However, it's very expensive. We're talking 1,100 pounds to acquire that capital improvement. That's going to be on everybody's mind here for the next couple turns. York's turn, turn 2. And I come over, and first thing I'm going to do is follow my order of play, and I'm going to rotate my service. So the footmen that supported the bowls and esquires L during the previous turn move into the quarters. I still have a footman here, which is going to be key, because right now, if I look over there, if I don't play that gazebo, I start to open the door for the other player to make a play on one of those 2 tiles and maybe pass me for a courtship. But if I play this, there's no way I can lose the courtship. I have to do it. And because I'm family York with the extra footman, I'm able to do that. So taking a look at the gazebo, I'm going to host afternoon tea. I'm able to invite 2 gentry, anybody in my deck, and I'm going to get a prestige invite out of this. That's big. So I'm going to go and invite 2 gentry. Let me first provide this service so I don't account for that servant being available when I look at my gentry. I want to get an invite coming from the lady. She pretty much guarantees me a good guest. And I'm going to go the daughter. I'm going to get 3 invites when I count the prestige guest there. So this is afternoon tea. So the mother and daughter are having afternoon tea. We now count according to this here, we count our favors. We do not have anybody generating pounds. In fact, we have only invites. We don't have any prestige. So the first invite I want to look at is I want to look at this prestige guest, first big time guest. So now we get the Earl of Shire. Brings a lot of money along with him and some victory points for endgame scoring. Fantastic. He is a reputation 3, however, so I've got to do something about the fact I'm stuck at start. So Earl of Shire goes there. Now she gets to look at 2 of these guests and keep 1. And we have an American heiress. American heiresses are interesting. They're obviously a disaster for your reputation. They're crude. They're from across the pond. But they do generate a lot of money. However, given the value here of Major William Hawes, I'm going to go with a reputation guy like that over the American heiress who's going to cost me reputation. Some American heiresses, though, bring even more money to the table. They're very tempting. So he goes in my gentry pile. She gets discarded. She's not going to be chosen. And then we get a pick here from the young lady. She does not get to look at 2 and keep 1. She's not a discerning veteran of the social scene. She just invites, and she gets really lucky. Lord Mortimer brings endgame victory points. He is a casual guest, but there's a few select second level, very high-end casual guests, and she landed on one of them. So this is a great build to the gentry deck. I got some winners in there. Turn is over. That goes there. Here comes down. We're going to flip this, and our 3 victory point position is impregnable. I don't have any money, so my turn is over, and we now go to turn 3, the turn of the village fair. This will be interesting. Turn 3, on the turn track, you'll note that we have a village fair. We shall see if Asquith's play to get the village fair benefit pays off here. So at the beginning of the turn, we take this benefit, which is 300 pounds of revenue from village fair, and 2 reputation, which, look at this, boom, boom. Rolls across top, reputation increases from 1 to 2. Excellent. We're significantly ahead of the Yorks over there, living in their trailer. And I've got a little power now. I'm carrying along 400 pounds out of the gate. Real smart that they played that gazebo, because look, by bumping up with the village fair, I don't know if they were accounting for that, I would be able to get up to a +1. If they hadn't flipped that, I would have won that courtship, snuck it past them. But that's not going to happen. Actually, that wouldn't have happened because, look, I'm way short. I didn't rotate my service to start. I'm way short on servants, and I don't have a footman there. You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to grab this cart shed, which is an objective card play. It's heavily discounted. It'll leave me in a strong position. I'm going to gamble that they don't go after the smoking room. They don't have any money. And I can do that by getting servants, which I desperately need. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to the butler's room when I'm doing servant hiring. The butler is required. I'm now able to hire 2 servants from the servant pool here, not the under butler. He only comes via a special tile, which is not shown up in the builder's market. Or I can steal 1 from this player. Generally, though, 2 is always better than 1. Now, I'm going to grab, if you remember, I got a lot of ladies, so I'm going to grab a lady's maid and a footman. Butler's going to orient those new servants, so they won't be immediately available. I'll flip this. I'll pick up a point. If service happens to pop up in the courtship, I have a nice 2-0 victory lead over them in service, and that's a big lead. Service tiles only generate 1 victory point, so it'd be unlikely they would be able to catch me. So I like having that in my back pocket. And now I can grab that cart shed for 200 and still keep 200, which is a nice little base. When I grab the cart shed, I get an objective card immediately. I don't get to look at multiple objective cards. I just got to take the top one. And then I get one after the 3 courtship events before final courtship. Now, look, that even strengthens my position in service. Boy, I'm rooting service on to come for the next courtship. So I immediately take an objective card. This is going to be a hit or miss. That's a tough one. Literature group, I need 2 libraries. I'm not going to pretend that's easy, but the victory point payoff is large. We'll have to see what happens in this game. I'm going to slide down the tiles. I really got to start thinking about maybe going after that tile, monument tile there, which would wipe out their advantage for not playing the study. There's the butler's pantry. The butler's pantry, when you purchase that, allows you to acquire an under butler who can perform any male role, a footman, a butler, or a valet role. Very, very flexible servant. Useful in the end game, last season when you're hosting large events. So we're done. Over to the York side. Well, let's see. It's a village fair. The York did not make that play. They do not realize any money or reputation at this point of the game. They will start by rotating their service. And they've won the courtship. They're pleased about that. I think what they need to do is do something about reputation. Reputation is a disaster. If we go to the parlor and play a couple ladies and I have my housekeeper available to me, I can salvage being so far behind in reputation. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab the housekeeper. From that, whist is a card game, and 2 ladies are invited to that card game in the parlor. I am going, oh my goodness. I only have 1 lady. Son of a gun, man. I've got to sit on that bed. I'm going to be a starting reputation from the very beginning. That hurts, man. That hurts. Whew. You know what? I'm going to dial up some servants. Come here. We're going to go the butler. Get to hire 2 or steal 1. I have a lot of guys. I don't have the still room. I'm going to grab a footman and a valet. Flip that butler's tile, start to close the gap a little bit should service show up over there. No money to spend. Really, I'm falling a little bit behind it. I'm in a money crunch. That's hurt me. I'm in a good spot regarding this courtship, but I'm in a money crunch, and it's not a good place to be right now. We now have our first courtship. So for season 1 courtship, we add up the estate victory points. -2 over here. And over there, we see that we're at 3. So we knew that ahead of time, but the Yorks win the courtship. The Yorks desperately need females, so they're going to be bringing the lovely Elizabeth Fairchild, excuse me for walking and working and knocking stuff over here, but I'm going to put her into the gentry deck. She'll be quite a pleasant sight. I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be going to the parlor in the first turn of the second season. And then I get a victory point card. And look at that. That's 5 victory points or a free servant from the hiring servant area. I'm going to retain that. I can use that favor at any time if I want to swap the 5 victory points, but I want to take that 5 victory points because, look, I'm trailing Manor House development. I'm going to need all of those victory points. End of Season 1.